Beneath a silver winter moon, the Tower of London lay cloaked in an uneasy quiet. A young yeoman warder, making his rounds near the shadowy scaffold memorial on Tower Green, drew his coat tighter against a sudden chill. It was the early hours of February 12th, a date that tugged at his memory. Centuries ago, on this very day, Lady Jane Grey had walked to her death here. The 17-year-old girl, Queen, used as a pawn in a deadly game of power, was executed within the Tower walls in 1554. The warder paused by the frost-glittered grass of Tower Green, recalling how Jane's brief reign of 9 days ended in tragedy. She was young, devout, and by many accounts innocent of any deliberate treason. Yet under Queen Mary's orders, Jane had knelt at the block where the axe fell. Her slight figure was buried under the stones of St. Peter's Chapel only a few yards away, among the other unfortunates who met their end on this spot. As these somber thoughts churned in his mind, he noticed a pale glow at the edge of his vision atop the nearby battlements. On the wall walk above, where the moonlight silvered the ancient stones, stood a female figure wearing a long faded gown. She was almost luminescent, a wavering white silhouette against the night sky. The warder's breath caught. No living person should be up there at this hour, certainly no lone woman in antiquated dress. He hurried closer, his boots scuffing on the cobbles, never taking his eyes off the mysterious figure. Though her form was slightly blurred, he could discern a youthful face framed by a veil and Tudor hood. Her hands were clasped loosely before her, and she stared out over Tower Green below. There was such sadness in her posture that the warder felt an unexpected ache in his chest, as if he were witnessing a private world of sorrow. He called up softly, "My lady." The luminous girl turned her head at the sound, looking directly at him. The warder stopped short. Lady Jane's face was deathly pale, almost transparent, but unmistakably filled with despair. By the moon's glow he saw tears shimmering in her eyes. For a heartbeat, the two regarded each other, the living guard rooted to the ground, the dead queen atop the wall, hovering between worlds. Jane Grey's lips moved as if speaking a name, but no sound reached his ears. Perhaps she whispered a prayer, or the name of her beloved husband Guildford, who had been executed on Tower Hill just days before her, and whose own ghost was said to weep in Beauchamp Tower. As the warder took a step forward, Jane lifted one hand in a gentle, almost beseeching gesture. Her mournful eyes drifted from him to the ground below, where the shadow of the scaffold would have been. In that moment, he understood. This was where she had last stood alive, where she had declared her faith and forgiveness to the watching crowd before laying her head upon the block. The ghost of Lady Jane Grey was reliving her final moments. A sudden gust of wind rattled the tree branches and made the warder blink. In that split second, the pale figure disappeared from the wall. He spun around, heart pounding. For a terrifying moment he feared she might have leaped, casting herself down in despair, but there was no trace of anyone on the icy grass below. Only the faint scent of lilies hung in the air, a fragrance that did not belong to winter. The warder exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He had heard tower legends of a white lady drifting along the battlements, but to see Lady Jane's spirit with his own eyes was something else entirely. It was profoundly unsettling yet oddly beautiful. He could still feel the weight of her gaze, filled with loneliness and longing. A moving glow of torchlight approached as another yeoman warder came toward him, concerned by his colleague's ashen face. The young guard struggled to find words. I think I saw her, Lady Jane." His voice was hushed, reverent. The older yeoman nodded slowly, Many have reported Jane's spectre over the years. A forlorn young woman in Tudor dress, appearing most often in the cold weeks of winter when her memory looms largest. She is typically seen atop the walls or near the chapel, always silent, always sad. Some nights, she is mistaken for a lost teenage visitor wandering after hours, until she fades away with the dawn's first light. Those who encounter her speak not of terror, but of a deep melancholy that lingers for days. The guard realized this was true. Along with his shock came a swell of grief he could not entirely explain. It was as if Jane's own despair had briefly brushed against his soul like a chill mist. As the two warders resumed their patrol in the moonlight, the younger man glanced back at the now empty battlements. In his mind, he could still picture Lady Jane Grey's slight figure standing vigil over the place of her martyrdom. Perhaps her spirit would finally find peace if history had remembered her more kindly. Instead, she remained a tragic phantom, bound to the tower by the injustice and heartbreak she endured. Within the chapel of St. Peter, ad Vincula nearby, under a simple flagstone, lay her mortal remains. Yet her restless soul walked beyond those walls. The Tower of London holds many ghosts, but none as gentle and heartrending as the pale girl queen who lost not only her crown and life, but also her chance to simply live out her youth in peace. On nights like this, when the wind whispers through Traitor's Gate and moonlight casts silver upon the tower's stones, some say Lady Jane Grey can still be seen wandering in silence. She searches for a mercy that never came, leaving behind only the chill of her sorrow and the faint impression of a kindly face that disappears if one looks too long. In the heart of this fortress of blood and power, her spectral presence endures as a lament, a ghost story not so much frightening as profoundly mournful, echoing through the centuries. Many thanks for treading this tale's dark path. If its chill gripped you, like, subscribe, and comment below.